I wanted to discuss the multidimensional embodiment aspect of ascension, especially for starseeds, and embodying your multidimensional starseed self aspects from my personal experience, as well as maybe some tips and ideas on how to start doing that and how that works, how that process can be helped. I guess the main thing that we have to get covered here is that multidimensional embodiment has to do with the sixth dimension and up. So there are many different higher levels of yourself, many different multidimensional aspects of you that are constantly working. Some of them might be working more, some of them less, as well as different, say, past life selves that are also part of your multidimensional self. And that then leads us on to the starseed selves. And you can embody these starseed aspects. The higher self embodiment is not that weird of a deal. Like, it really isn't. I feel like sometimes people can have this idea that the higher self is something that's just out there. But it's really not, it's really here. And so therefore the idea that the multidimensional self would be something different either is false. The multidimensional self is here also. But a lot of us are not consciously embodying these aspects. I feel like a part of it is because we have, a lot of us have been given this paradigm where we're thinking that it's just out there, you know? And the other thing is, some people are just not awake. They're just not aware that energy and spirituality and multidimensionality is a thing. And so therefore a lot of us are not aware that we can actually embody our multidimensional selves, our higher selves, our starseed selves, our angelic selves when we can. So with that out of the way, let's get into how that thing works then. First of all, we all have the ascension column, we all have our energy field, we all have our chakras, you know, we all have that going on. We all have, again, the higher self, multidimensional self, past life selves, angelic selves, all that. And so therefore, getting to know those aspects of yourselves is a big part of this. And sometimes what I've noticed is that when I ask my higher self to be embodied, new aspects come through. And the freaky part is sometimes I start to see those in the mirror. That's where it gets like really freaky, when you're like really embodied, when you let your higher self, your multidimensional aspects to be embodied. That's when it's just like starts to shine through your skin, your eyes and everything. At first it's a little bit bizarre. At first when you start doing this, it might also feel a little bit different. Like, for example, one time I had this experience where I just felt like I was really freaking tall. Like, I had some Syrian starseed aspect come through that was like way taller than my human body is. So then I just like felt like I was walking on the roof when I wasn't. Just like, what is going on? So that type of thing can happen, especially if we are talking about starseed aspect, you know, some of those beings are very tall. Often the most noticeable thing I see is just it comes through my face, and that might be a thing with a lot of people. But how this is then done is, of course, we have to get to know those aspects of ourselves. We have to know ourselves. And we have to let all kinds of ideas, all kinds of deconditionings and things that we maybe took on, things that maybe were pushed onto us. A lot of that has to be done before we can actually do this effectively. So once we then start to do that, how we do that, it's surprisingly simple. We ask for our higher self to be embodied. Like, this is how I would do it. I'm just gonna demonstrate right away. First I'm gonna clear just so there isn't any weird energy around. So calling in the cosmic crystalline divine starlight from the source, from the stars, to pour in to this space, clear any discord, toxicity, negativity, disharmony, clear, crystallize, puritize, divinitize. Override and override any harmful energies, any pain, any damage. Override and override it with peace, harmony, love, and light. So it is. And now, at this point, I would connect with my higher levels, well, you could do that, like if you need to clear, you can also connect with your higher levels when you're there. So I connect with my higher self, my multidimensional self, all of my higher levels. I connect to them. I connect through my heart. Focus on your heart center. That's an important part of this, the high heart. And then just allow your higher self to come through, to step forward, as well as your multidimensional self, your angelic self, your Christed self, whatever you want to call them. You don't have to use those words either. You might have other aspects of yourself that you might want to call in, your guides, your oversoul, the Godhead of your oversoul, as well as any other beings. And use that column of light to again connect to the source with the highest interest of all involved in mind, in the highest of light, highest frequencies that we can handle now. I ask for my multidimensional starseed self, any aspect that is of the highest benefit on my highest timeline right now, to step through and to enter my vehicle, my body, be embodied in this vehicle right now. And I'm actually I'm feeling tingles on my skin. Sometimes that can happen. And yeah, I'm feeling it on my body. I'm feeling it. Okay, so this is probably some dimensional self that I haven't interacted with, because it's like, or is it? Oh, I'm already familiar with this. Yeah, I just felt it. Like, my physical clairsentience is very strong, and I'm not sure how many people have that going on for them, but some people do, and so it's a consideration. Like, sometimes you might see images. I oftentimes see visions, like visual visions in my inner vision. Sometimes I might even see like the aura of this higher self aspect in front of me. Like one time there was, I think it was this Syrian being or something, who was in front of me, and then I started to embody them, and then it was just like a merge, then and there. So sometimes that happens. There was also a time when I was contacting my human higher self for the first time. It was really hard to connect to my human higher self. I don't know why. It took me like a year to fucking do that. It took forever. It wasn't until I got to live here that happened. It was like a year and a half. after I started doing any of this, like any of this embodiment stuff. That was like my human higher self was putting me to bed and just like embracing me there, you know. So those type of things can happen. And right now I am in contact, in embodiment with the star guide self. That's just kind of what I heard. Yeah, it's the star guide. So there we are. And I remember when that mission was introduced to me, I was not ready for it. I wasn't necessarily ready for the highest timeline back then, but I've started to embody it, and it has been a process, and a lot of things had to get out of the way in order for this to even be a possibility, in order for this to even start to run smoothly. And there were still some things in the way, you know, that I had to deal with. But I guess my main point with this is sometimes it might bring some revelations about stuff when you start doing this, because you're more in your higher levels, because that higher level, that star self, starseed self is embodied in you. So of course there's more of that in you. Something that some people might just face is that they might feel a little bit, I guess, intimidated or fearful of what the higher self choices are, because maybe in some case we feel like we are not on the right path, or we are forcing things and stuff like that. And in those situations I think it is really important to understand that there is also a higher path, right? There's also a higher timeline where things can actually work a lot smoother. You know, before getting into this, it's important to again understand that you are doing work on yourself, that you are actually doing as much as you can to keep yourself in a clear state. It's not like you're ever going to just lose your whole life for when it comes to this stuff. It's only that which really is of the lower vibration that we have to get rid of. And so if it's really something that, say you work in an industry or you work in a situation that is just toxic, you probably have to get rid of that. And probably being embodied in that workplace is not going to be very easy. And so therefore more of that stuff has to be done there. When it comes to then other type of things that might come, like that's maybe more about like general life type of stuff. But other stuff that might come up when we start to embody our starseed selves, our multidimensional selves and stuff like that. We might have difference in tastes, in say for example, we might want to eat differently. Those type of things might start to happen. And so I find that with that it's quite important to of course follow those nudges. Sometimes those things may not make any freaking sense at all whatsoever, but there might be some of those type of things. For example, right now I really need to let go of caffeine, especially coffee, because I'm being given this push to just let go of any kind of spiritual attachments, any kind of attachments at all. And so one of these attachments was to coffee, especially caffeinated coffee. And so that's the one challenge that I'm being given right now, and I'm working through it. It's going surprisingly well. Other things, well, first of all, I have been pushed to exercise and again eat better, lose some fat from my body, just to make sure that this vehicle is working properly, that we're having a good vehicle for source to embody, of course, right? So there can be all kinds of things. You might be really called out on your habits. You might be really called out on a lot of things. And there can also be disorientation, of course. There can be different ways that, again, our body, our psyche might react to these things, to all kinds of, we can have ascension symptoms, we can have all kinds of weird, symptoms that we haven't really had before. Some of us might get more anxious, or if you are dealing with other things, then you might have flare up of those, right? Sometimes those things happen so that we can purge, right? Sometimes that happens for that reason, but also just be aware of what's really going on in your life, because there can also be kind of just a side effect from that, and also there can be things there that might be possibly slowing down the process, or they might be in the way, and therefore it might be a bit harder than it has to be. And I've had those situations as well. Some things that have kind of been on the way of allowing myself to step into this role fully. So yeah, that's something that I wanted to make sure that I mentioned here in this video as well. Yeah, one thing that is really freaky is, this is my very personal perspective, very personal experience here. So I'm transgender. I have gender dysphoria in regards to my body. And sometimes when I'm super embodied in my higher levels, it makes it better in a weird way. It's like, sometimes I have these experiences where I almost forget that I was born into this body. And it's almost like I start to see myself fully transitioned and stuff. And it's not like I physically see it, but it's like, I mean, I kind of do. But then there are these things where, like, sometimes I just look into the mirror and like, oh, is that how my body looks like? What? And it's like really weird. Because yeah, in a lot of the times, like, if I'm not really doing this work, then I might have worse dysphoria. My dysphoria can be really bad. I can actually feel like this is not my body at all. And there can be just a lot of discomfort in regards to that. But I just wanted to make sure that people know the difference between body dysmorphia and body dysphoria when it comes to gender, because body dysmorphia is a little bit different. It doesn't necessarily have to do with gender at all. And it has more to do with this kind of feeling that your body is flawed. It's kind of that type of thing. And I don't necessarily feel like my body is flawed at all. It just doesn't feel mine. It's just discomfort for, first of all, when it comes to certain body parts being there. And how that is kind of a discord or dissonance for when it comes to how I feel my gender, how I feel my gender identity and all that, right? It's beyond identity as well. Like it goes a lot deeper than what people think. And even that is not all of me or all of who I am. Of course, remember to take care of yourself, treat yourself kindly, as well as treat your body kindly, and to do the work to connect with your higher levels, as well as eventually, when you're ready for it, embodiment. So yeah, that's it for this video. Make sure you keep doing the good work. You make sure you take care of yourself, your body, your mind, your spirit. Keep on connecting with your higher levels, as well as doing the embodiment. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Alvia. I use he, him pronouns, and I will be back with my next video at some point in whatever topic that I want to talk about. Stay inspiring. Bye.